My name is R. Crosby Lyles, and this is News from the Can. Trump tells crowd to get vaccinated. Okay, so here's my beef with this. I'm going to get right to it. I'm watching all the talking heads talking about this. The first place that I really saw it was Chris Hayes on MSNBC. And he was basically giving Donald Trump a hard time, and that's all cool and everything, but, you don't give somebody a hard time when they do the right thing. I mean, as ham-handed or however the hell he did it, the guy's telling people to get vaccinated. He said, look, I got vaccinated. I think you should get vaccinated. You don't like the way it sounds or whatever, that's cool. But, the guy did the right thing, and don't give somebody a hard time when they're doing the right thing. Whatever you think about Donald Trump, and I think the guy is an idiot. I mean, my niece's husband said he's a genius at self-promotion. He's a genius at marketing, which may be true. But the thing about it is that he's not very adept. You know what I mean? He's just not. So, not everything that happened under his watch was bad. There was good stuff that happened. There was, as long as he let people do their jobs, they did okay. Like, there was some stuff that's not really that much changed as far as the U.S. Border Patrol and certain southern border policies sort of remained the way they were, whatever they worked out with Trump. And a lot of that stuff is, you have people that have been in the government for a long time. It's the executive branch employs about 1 million people. 1 million people. So there's people in there that are just, they know what they're doing. You have to have that institutional wisdom. They call it the deep state. Well, so they emptied out the State Department, all of the institutional wisdom of the State Department. Look, man, these organizations have been around for a long time, and you don't want to really flush people down the toilet. So they weren't, it's like he gave people what they wanted. He's a grifter. That's my problem with Trump. He's a grifter. And these poor folks that are behind him here, they're, a lot of these people are probably paid stand-ins. Trump is known for getting paid extras to stand behind him. So, maybe some of them aren't, but I'll bet a lot of them are. And lying and all that stuff, repeating the lie and shit, I mean, he's we can't have it. It's not sustainable to have a Trump, to have this Trumpism continue. It ain't gonna pan out for America. It's gonna basically bring America down. We don't need that. That's bad news. So, however, the guy's telling people to get vaccinated, and I'm like, look, man, if you want to be a pundit, don't give the guy a hard fucking time for doing the right thing. You know what I mean? I mean, whatever kind of way he could squeeze it out. He stood up there in person in front of all these people and said, look, I got the vaccine, get the vaccine. He might have sounded like fucking Lou Costello doing it. You know what I mean? If you know who Abbott and Costello are. It's a comedian from the 40s. A lot of people, so I can throw that out there. You might not know who I'm talking about. Sean Hannity's starting to look like fucking Lou Costello. That's who he reminds me of, is Lou Costello. So anyway, but just because he's doing the right thing, hey, let's not hand the shit back over to the guy, all right? And now he doesn't want to be president anyway. He just wants, to pay his debts, and I don't know. He probably like being president, but he gets in there again, and it's over. You better fucking know that. And why is that a problem? Why is it a problem if a Donald Trump becomes Lord and Master of the fucking United States? Why is that a problem? Because it's the truth according to him. It's about loyalty, not loyalty to the Constitution of the United States. You're not protecting and defending the Constitution anymore. It's not loyalty to any kind of grand truth. It's loyalty to him. We've already seen that. You buck him in favor of the truth, you get reamed. So, and we just can't have that. I mean, that's a horrifying thing, and it kind of boils down to when your mother needs an operation, then you got to go to the, you know what I mean? You got to go to the king and kiss the ring, and it's arbitrary and capricious, and that's like a horrid fucking way to live. That's why we did this whole American experiment, is to get away from kings. So yeah, we don't need that. But let's, you know what I mean? Let's keep it in the road, people. Because you look like, I mean, it's annoying. It's annoying. The guy's doing the right thing. But these people are all cannon fodder. Not only that, oh, you know what? Let me bring that up. So this is my post, this is my Facebook post. High Springs to get a monoclonal antibody site. Set to begin 7-day-a-week operation on Tuesday. Okay, so it's 7 days a week. And they're able to do 300 people a day. Monoclonal antibody treatments, it's a bag. It's an IV. They hook you up with an IV and they drain it into you. It's $1,000 a bag. Versus $25 a shot for the vaccine. So this is my post, says, yeah. So High Springs is getting a monoclonal antibody site. Notice that's a church there. So they're going to get paid for rent and whatever, use of the building and all this. This is a way to funnel money. So Ron DeSantis is against mandates and against shutdowns and all that kind of stuff. But he's got a buddy that's in the fucking monoclonal antibody business. They're getting $1,000 a bag. This facility can treat 300 people in a day. That's $300,000 a day. All coming from you. Now, you're not going to pay for it. It gets free to the people, but that comes from the federal government. That's your hard-earned tax money. So he's doing this. He's doing $300,000 a day at a facility that looks like it's a church, right? When you could have just, so it doesn't look good. It looks like the whole amplification of, and the, you know, COVID numbers are off the fucking chain. There you go. New cases and deaths. Statistics, testing, symptoms, prevention, coping, variants, treatments. Overview. How about overview? No. Whoever this is, Google. So yeah, it's off the chain. You can see all these spikes here. Florida. There you go. Yeah. 42,716 deaths. Cases, 3 million cases. 3 million cases. What's 3 million times 1,000? It's 3 billion. That's a lot of money. You know, it's, you know, I can see the phone call now. Hey, Ron. Look here, man. You know, this monoclonal antibody treatment over here, we can get about $1,000 a bag for that. You know what I mean? What's the possibility we could, you know, sort of drag this thing out a little bit? You know, kind of goose the numbers a little bit, so we don't need quite as many people to get the vaccine. You know what I mean, buddy? What can we do about that? I think we can. It doesn't look good. You're against mandates. You're against shutdowns. You're against doing any reasonable thing that would keep the COVID numbers down, and yet you're promoting monoclonal antibody treatment that's $1,000 a bag from the federal government that your donor is making big money on. Doesn't look good. I won't characterize that, but that's what it doesn't look good. But my message overall is, I mentioned something about communists, that the communists weren't happy with something I was doing. Okay, so here's the Truth Is Overrated. Let me just bring that up. Okay, there is right there, That's at the height of the pandemic. When is this? November 28th, 2020. So that's the peak of the mechanized shutdown of the world, and that's what the 50 hectopascal level of CO2 looks like right there, which is, in all fairness, it's probably 500 parts per million, 500 or 600 parts per million, somewhere in there. They keep toggling around this legend down here, but it doesn't matter, because whether it's 600, whether that number there is 600 or 1,000, doesn't matter. I mentioned it already in another post. So this is what it looks like, 50 hectopascals today. I've done this before, but this is my point. So that's in the span of how long? Since November. And today is August 24th, 2021. So that's what it looks like now. This is persistent, by the way. It should be persistent, because this is in the stratosphere. At 50 hectopascals, it's like 67,000 feet. The air is very dry. It should be pretty persistent there. But in the span of less than a year, this level was lower than it was before. I mean, as soon as I saw that, I was like, holy shit. That's when I started making videos about it. And nobody seemed to give a fuck. You know what I mean? They really don't. I showed it to my brother. He says, what's all that lava lamp stuff? It's just totally... they don't get it. That's fucking doom. That's what that's called. I mean, let me spell it out for you. Let me just give it to you blood raw. That's called... Is what that's called. Do you understand? All that red up there in the stratosphere, it's called... Here's your fucking... This is your total column of methane. See all that shit wafting off of China? Of course, this has been doing this in some degree or another for the past 11,000 years. It's from agriculture, by and large. So as soon as the powers that be saw this carbon dioxide thing, and when you look back, you got to look at my videos previously and look at the methane and the analysis, the thinking that goes behind what I'm talking about, that this basically looks like a methane pulse. Looks like the residual from a methane pulse is what it looks like. Subsea methane pulse. Kind of does, kind of doesn't. There's a lot of methane coming off northern Europe. That's got to be a contributor too. This is at the surface level. So my point though is that when the powers that be, when the real tool pushers see this right here, this massive level of carbon dioxide basically appeared around late 2018, 2019, somewhere in there. All of a sudden, a supposedly man-made Iris V shows up from China, one of the most populous countries in the world, and it's an Iris V that has some interesting properties to it. That sort of looks like a weapon, kind of ish, sort of. Just saying. The fascinating thing is that people like Ron DeSantis and Donald Trump and the Trump element of the Republican Party are doing everything they can to make the virus as virulent as possible and kill as many people as possible. If you want to know what something is, look at what it does. So they are the ones who are wielding the sickle. And when there's a mechanized shutdown of the world, the CO2 goes away pretty quickly. The other pollutants go away pretty quickly. Do the math. One thing shows up about the same time as the other. I don't know. Correlation is not causation. Yeah, okay, sure. Doesn't look good to me, but my whole point is that the Republicans are treating their own supporters like dupes. They're just lemmings. They're just cannon fodder for $1,000 a day, bag in their arm. But that's only going to work for you if you get there in time. If you show up and you got to be put on a ventilator, it might be too late for you. Monoclonal antibodies only work like early. I mean, They might be great anytime. I don't really know. I'm not a medical expert, so I'm not going to say that. But my understanding is the earlier you get it, the better off you are. And it's like, you know, you're pushing, oh no, the monoclonal antibodies, that's better to get that than a $25 vaccine and not have to go through any of that shit. In north central Florida, we have the Delta variant, and my understanding it is, and you need to check this, do not take this as fact, my understanding is that, well, listen, the RSV mutates a half a dozen times in each person that it infects. So you're rolling the dice 6 times in each person for a more virulent strain. And you've already, out of the bag, right off rip, you've already got the worst possibilities. That you can carry it for a long time with being asymptomatic, that it takes 2 weeks until the bad symptoms hit you, the killer symptoms hit you, that it's airborne. It's fucking airborne, you know? This outbreak had happened back in the 80s or 90s or 70s. They'd have had the guys in rubber suits coming out and remain calm. It never would have seen the light of day. They'd have stomped on it. Because it's already happened a few times. Swine flus. We've had swine flu outbreaks that have enormous mortality rates and shit like that. That's what you have the CDC for. That's what you have the National Institutes of Health. They're cracking down. You know, it's like they're shooting America in the brain so that these guys can make a living. I mean, how craven is that? Unless Sean Hannity and Laura Ingraham, Tucker Carlson, Ron DeSantis, Donald Trump, and Donald Trump's kids, unless they're actually communists. Unless they're actually hardcore, no bullshit environmentalists, enviro-communists. Because what do they always do? If you want to know what something is, look at what it does. They're always doing things that lead to the economy breaking down in mass death. I mean, look at what they're, you know, if you want to know who they are, look at what they're doing. They're kind of sort of for slavery, for autocracy. They're about the most Chinese communist looking thing in America is the Republican Party. That, I mean, really, you know, just look at it objectively. The most CCCP looking thing in America is the Republican Party. If you want to know what it is, look at what it does. They are basically de facto enviro-communists. So when I was in a previous video, when I was talking about the communists, that's who I was really talking about. And others, you know, they're the actual people that refer to themselves and call themselves communists. You know, that they want the breakdown of the whole thing too. So Democrats, you know, your dyed-in-the-wool Democrats, your average fucking Democrats, they're always trying to hold things together. They're always putting the fucking egg back together. Humpty Dumpty falls off the wall. They got this magical way of trying to put them back together again. And that's what it is. The Republicans push Humpty Dumpty off the wall. The Democrats come in and try to put them back together again. And that's this fucking thing that keeps going on. You know what I mean? Meanwhile, nobody's really seeing what else is going on in the world. And basically what's going on is a lot of thievery. But, you know, my whole point is that, you know, just judging by what's going on here, you know, you look at what's going on in the environment and the plastic and the this and the that, and then you look at the COVID numbers and you look at the way the CCP in America is handling this shit, and you know what? I wouldn't worry about it. Everything's under control. I don't really, you know, I mean, the reason I make videos is because I stumbled into this conflagration. You know, I made a video. I was working on a fucking golf course. was working on a golf course, and this probably alien-inspired thing. I'm working on this guy, and I have this title in my mind, the Armageddon line. I got to use that somewhere. I don't know. It was just blazing in my mind, and it's just like I had to make a fucking video, and I had to figure out some kind of way to use that name. So I made it. It's like, well, I had to do a follow up on, magnetic field effects on ocean currents. Really, that's why I made the video, and I said, well, I can use this Armageddon line title at the same time. That was just sort of emblazoned in my mind. Here I am on a golf course, kind of sort of out in the middle of nowhere, early in the morning. Sounds crazy, but hey, it's all good. Everything's under control. Everything is under control. Everything is under control. Everything is under control. It's gonna be okay. Relax. It's gonna be fine. Yeah, babes. Everything's gonna be fine. So I do that video, and then next thing you know, I'm seeing all this stuff about Guy McPherson and everything else, and I'm like, well, it doesn't look right. Let me make a video and see what I can do about that. Whatever. Verify the Venus Earth thing, and that's the other thing too. What climate scientists are really worried about, what they're really concerned about, is cascade failure. The Alan Sorkin television show, was it with Jeff Daniels in it? And he has this climate scientist, and he says the child is born today that will die from catastrophic failure of the biosphere. It's chilling. He said, nah, it would have been nice. We could have done that 20 years ago. We would have been good, blah, blah, blah. So what's that going to look like? Oh, too many fires, more fires than you could count. Somebody fact-checked. Mother Jones fact-checked Aaron Sorkin's climate science on the newsroom. It's the newsroom. Oh, wow, the video's unavailable. Wow, look at that. They took it down. So what's that going to look like? Well, more fires than you can count, blah, blah, blah. Which, firestorms is the thing. They said that nuclear war would cause so many firestorms that it would cause a nuclear winter. So how is it that all these firestorms aren't going to create a nuclear winter? I mean, there's some plot holes there. But so what climate scientists are worried about, frankly, is they're worried about changes in ocean and wind currents and things like that have an effect on ocean upwelling. And they're worried about oceans becoming, parts of the oceans, Gulf of Mexico, places like that, becoming anoxic, oxygen depleted. Which, what would actually cause this, especially in the Gulf of Mexico, is current farming practices, eutrophication of the ocean, too many nutrients in the water, and when you have large amounts of rain and a large flow of fresh water, it has a tendency to deplete the oxygen level in the water and create, algae blooms and things like that, anoxic conditions. And Florida is got fish kill after fish kill. Yeah, hard hit. Blind River wildlife suffer badly. And so Mosaic is a company that mines a lot of phosphates. Phosphate fertilizer is widely used. So I just did a search for Mosaic fish kill. Somebody's having a march against Mosaic. Well, it's really, it may not be. Well, they got a Facebook page too. The thing about it is that, laying it at the feet of Mosaic has mining facilities all over the world. Laying it at their feet may not necessarily be entirely fair. They did have some dike breaches, and they let out some toxic water. It has happened. But really, in all honesty, it's agricultural practices in Florida. They've done things to where foul water gets concentrated and dumped in mass into not just the Gulf of Mexico, but dumped on the other side. And, it's just like, it's a Holocaust every other fucking week. You know what I'm saying? Fish kills all over the place in Florida. Yeah. And when you go, if you ever paddle around in the waters surrounding Florida, we didn't used to have these like bright green weeds in the water. We didn't used to have that shit way back in the day. The water was nice. It was clear. It was but that's a sign of eutrophication. It's from too much nutrients in the water. We grow a lot of cows in Florida. Everything. They grow everything in Florida. Florida's an agricultural state, and cow shit, when the Santa Fe River dries up, not very far from here, it smells like cow shit. That's what it smells like. So the springs are flowing green now. They're not pure blue, crystal blue like they used to be and shit. That's from agriculture. There's a way we can get that out. We can filter that water. We can extract the minerals out of that and reuse it for fertilizer. Because of all the flooding that's going on in China and in other places, phosphate fertilizer is going to become more in demand. So somebody's probably trying to kick Mosaic off of their perch in Florida and move in. You know what I mean? At that point, it'll just be meet the new boss, same as the old boss anyway. So I would look at this with a little bit of skepticism, laying all that at the feet of Mosaic. I really would. So, but there's ways that we can produce machines that can clean the seawater and extract in these estuaries and things like that, where we can clean the water. We can extract the minerals back out of the water. It's not that hard to do. I don't know how expensive it would be. You got to use ammonia and things like that. But to me, it's misdirection. It smacks of misdirection. Might be true. Got to look into it. Haven't really looked into it that much. Leave a comment in the description and stuff. But it smacks of misdirection. So, we got a lot of problems. And it's all, everything from plastic, dealing with plastic. I saw this thing about clothing that gets dumped in Africa, used clothing, and it's a huge problem and this and that. It all requires a mechanized, pollution control requires a mechanized approach. And the reason that we haven't really done it is because politics centers around cheap labor, and helping the environment necessarily involves hiring people to do things like separate plastic or collect plastic off the beach. They found that the Great Pacific Garbage Patch doesn't have as much plastic as it should, and the reason that they found that it doesn't is because winds are typically onshore winds at certain various times of the day, that a lot of the plastic that goes into the ocean blows back up on the land, which is good because then you can have people stroll along the beach or ride along whatever and pick it up off the beach. You can clean most of that plastic up off the beach and then take it to a process, to a big giant facility, suck all the water out of it. You can put it in a big vacuum chamber, pull all the water out of it, because when you heat plastic in the presence of water, it produces dioxin. That's a problem. So you got to pull all the water out of it. You pull all the water, or heat it, drive all the water out of it first. It's a process. And you can make fuel out of it. All the plastic in the world, basically, you can make fuel out of it. Some of it, there's some wrinkles there. But then you end up with, you can make diesel, gasoline, gas, natural gas, and whatever's left over, basically, you can turn that into asphalt. So, plastic is eminently recyclable. The plastic problem is imminently solvable. Because you're not going to be able to get rid of plastic. It's too useful. You know what I mean? Just all the things that they do with plastic, getting rid of plastic bottles, all that does is just anger the voting public into voting for Republicans. So, Yeah, plastic, but the elements of the plastic get in the food chain, and then your testicles are smaller, and your children and stuff like that, and it causes all kinds of fucking problems. So that's the thing, the big things you got to watch out are the things that are the materials, the chemicals that are persistent in the food chain, that are persistent, that hang out in the fat cells of organisms and build up in animals higher up in the food chain, like human beings. Cancer rates are off the fucking chain right now. And a lot of that may have to do with, and I got a little correction here, because my you know what I mean? Sometimes I don't read that well and stuff, and I've been known to mispronounce things, and probably because I don't really even give a shit that much, but it's glyphosate. I was pronouncing glyphosate as glyphosate. Probably because it's in tiny print down there, and forever I was like, oh, it's glyphosate. It's glyphosate. It's pronounced glyphosate. So there's that. Glyphosate is in everything because no-till farming is a big thing now. No-till farming apparently is a big revolutionary thing. It preserves the soil, and it does this and it does that, and it's all great and everything's wonderful. But there's glyphosate in fucking your child's cereal and stuff, and it gives you blood cancer and colon cancer, I think, maybe, or something like that. There's millennials have an exaggerated amount of colon cancer, and it's like, everything is under control. You don't have to do anything about pollution. Like, you know what it is by what it does. The Republicans are are wiping human beings off the face of the earth. Problem solved. Unfortunately, other species are going to go as well, but that's what they're doing. The net effect of what Republicans are doing is wiping every goddamn human being off the face of the earth, one way or the other. It's either going to be from consuming the shit that's in, biphenyls or whatever, in plastic, in the food chain, or from some other DDT-like material, or any number of other fat-soluble fucking toxic pollutants. Burning coal kills, processing and digging up, burning, processing coal kills more fucking people in a year than probably died in Hiroshima. You know what I'm saying? So, yeah. But that's okay. Just relax. Everything's under control. Everything's under control. The Republican climate communists are going to take care of everything. And that's all I got. It sounds ridiculous, maybe. But objectively, what it is what it does. Everything works out in the end. Even if everything's not going to be all right, everything's going to be all right. Oh, it's always a good idea to get stocked up on stuff you need, emergency supplies. Good to have communication devices. I don't sell anything. I don't sell any of that stuff. I don't do paid promotions or any of that shit. I'm just letting you know that it's a good idea to have ham radio, for emergencies and stuff like that. And that's all I got. My name is R. Crosby Lyles. This has been News from the Can. Love you guys. Take care. See you. Bye. News from the Can.